San Francisco Police Department's detective, Nick Curran, whose life had been fraught with hardship and struggles, finds himself drawn into an intriguing and complex murder case. This is no ordinary case, as the victim of the gruesome crime is none other than Johnny Boz, a prominent figure who was once adored by millions in his former rock star days. Boz's fame and wealth, however, failed to shield him from a terrifying death. The crime scene depicts a scene of brutal violence, as Boz was mercilessly stabbed to death with an ice pick in the middle of an intimate encounter with a mysterious blonde woman. Boz wasn't just a beloved music icon, but he also had influential connections which extend to the high echelons of the city's administration. His association with the mayor adds an extra layer of complexity to the case, thereby increasing the stakes of the investigation. As a result, the presence of the mayor's aide becomes a consistent feature, casting a watchful eye over Curran and his team as they delve deeper into the perplexing circumstances surrounding Boz's murder. After the meticulous examination of the crime scene, Detective Curran's path crosses with that of Beth Garner. Garner is an esteemed psychiatrist affiliated with the SFPD, and her involvement in Curran's life has been mandated by the department's internal affairs. Due to his history of substance abuse, Nick Curran has been required to seek her professional assistance, a measure taken to ensure his well-being and efficient performance on duty. As their session commences, she inquires about his recent behavior, particularly his consumption of drugs and alcohol. Detective Curran, battling to overcome the clutches of his addictive habits, maintains that he has been living a life of sobriety. He assures her that for the past 3 months, he has managed to stay clean, with no recourse to the harmful substances that had once threatened to derail his life and career. In the puzzling murder case of the once-renowned rock star Johnny Boz, the police are working with limited clues. Their only substantial lead is Trammell, a highly successful crime novelist of significant wealth. It was Trammell who was last seen in the company of Boz on the fateful night that ended in his tragic demise. Detective Nick Curran, along with his fellow detective Gus Moran, affectionately known as George by his colleagues, decide to pursue this lead, hoping that it might provide some valuable insights into the case. Their search for answers leads them to Trammell's grand mansion nestled in the affluent district of Pacific Heights. However, to their surprise, instead of finding Trammell, they are met with the presence of Roxy, Trammell's devoted lesbian partner who currently occupies the luxurious residence. Roxy, upon meeting the detectives, informs them of Trammell's location. She reveals that Trammell is spending her time at her Stinson Beach beach house, another property in her extensive real estate portfolio. Curran and Moran immediately head to the beach house to question Trammell. They discover her basking in the sun, languidly lounging on a deck chair with the expansive ocean as her backdrop. As the two policemen approach and introduce themselves, Trammell's response is one of subtle familiarity. Turning her gaze toward Curran, she states, "I know who you are," suggesting an awareness of his identity before the encounter. The detectives proceed to question Trammell, particularly about the nature of her relationship with Boz. In response, she candidly asserts that their relationship was not romantic, but purely sexual. Her dismissive tone and frankness catch the detectives off guard, but they continue their interrogation. Upon informing Trammell about Boz's death, her reaction is one of cold indifference. She admits to missing their sexual escapades the most, displaying an alarming lack of remorse for the violent end of a man she was intimately involved with. They unearth a chilling detail about Trammell that raises their suspicions. She has authored a novel. The plot of this novel eerily mirrors the real-life murder of a former rock star. The victim in her book, just like the real-life rock star, was found tied to a bed with a white scarf, his body bearing the brutal marks of multiple stab wounds inflicted by an ice pick. This uncanny similarity leads Curran and Moran to strongly suspect that Trammell might be the one who ended the life of Boz, the rock star. Their suspicions lead to another confrontation with Trammell, a tense encounter that ends with her agreeing to accompany them to the police headquarters. She consents to be interviewed about the murder, a development that brings a glimmer of hope to the detectives. However, before proceeding to the police station, she requests a moment to change her attire. She wishes to wear something more appropriate for the occasion. As the interview commences, she uncrosses and crosses her legs in a manner that can only be described as provocative. This unexpected act briefly exposes her genitalia to the room full of interrogators. The sight leaves the detectives, particularly Curran, in a state of shock and embarrassment. This moment, filled with surprise and discomfort, adds another layer of complexity to their investigation. Throughout the entire questioning process, Catherine Trammell intentionally stirs the atmosphere of formality by addressing Detective Curran by his first name, Nick. This subtly transgresses the boundaries of a standard police interrogation, further adding to the tension and discomfort in the room. Following the unconventional and tense interview with Trammell later that evening, Curran decides to spend some time unwinding at a local bar, along with several of his colleagues from the police department. It is here that Curran, in an unfortunate turn of events, succumbs to the stress of the case and relapses into drinking, breaking the streak of sobriety he had been maintaining for the past 3 months. As the night progresses, Officer Nielsen, a stern figure from Internal Affairs, makes an appearance at the bar. Nielsen's relationship with Curran has been marred by discord throughout their careers, his strict adherence to protocol often clashing with Curran's unconventional methods. Their shared history and animosity lead to a heated argument. The situation takes an unexpected turn when Beth Garner, the police psychiatrist who has been mandated to counsel Curran by Internal Affairs, after witnessing the escalating confrontation, she tactfully intervenes. Garner and Curran decide to leave the bar together, heading towards Beth's apartment. In the privacy of Beth's apartment, their professional relationship takes a personal turn as they engage in passionate intimacy. After their encounter, despite having quit smoking for a significant period, the strain of the day prompts Nick to ask for a cigarette. Garner, accommodating his request, directs him to a stash of cigarettes in the apartment. However, the night takes a sudden twist when, immediately after, Garner instructs Nick to leave her apartment in a sharp, irritated tone. The abruptness of her request leaves Curran caught off guard, adding yet another layer of complexity to the convoluted series of events surrounding the murder case. Detective Nick Curran's investigation into the murder of Johnny Boz becomes increasingly convoluted when he uncovers some disturbing details about Catherine Trammell's past. In a particularly shocking revelation, Curran learns that both of Trammell's parents were victims of a tragic boat explosion that occurred when she was still in her adolescence. This unsettling discovery paints a grim picture of Trammell's early life, further adding to her enigmatic profile. In addition to this, Curran finds that Trammell exhibits a peculiar pattern in her relationships, often befriending individuals with a violent and murderous history. An example of such a friend is a woman who is infamous for having stabbed her own husband and children to death. Things take an even more curious turn when Curran, during a visit to Trammell's residence, realizes that she is privy to confidential details about his life. These are private pieces of information that should only be known to Beth Garner, his appointed psychiatrist. This realization rattles Curran, leading him to confront Garner about this breach in confidentiality. Garner, under the weight of Curran's accusations, reveals a bitter truth. She admits that she was coerced into handing over Curran's private file to the Internal Affairs investigator Nielsen. Nielsen, who has had a history of conflict with Curran, furious and betrayed, Curran storms into Nielsen's office, accusing him of having shared his confidential psychological profile with Trammell. Nielsen, taken aback by Curran's outburst, retorts by screaming, "You're through!" This declaration from Nielsen implies a significant shift in Curran's career with the police department, signaling further challenges in his pursuit of the truth about Johnny Boz's murder. The intensity of the conflict between Detective Nick Curran and Internal Affairs investigator Nielsen escalates dramatically when Nielsen is found dead later that same night. His lifeless body is discovered in his car, a single gunshot wound to his head suggesting a violent end. The murder weapon is identified as a .38 pistol, a common sidearm amongst law enforcement officers. Given their recent heated encounter, other officers in the police department start to suspect that Curran could have had a motive to kill Nielsen, thus casting a shadow of suspicion over him. As the intricate web of the investigation continues to unfold, Curran finds himself entangled in a passionate, albeit dangerous, sexual relationship with Catherine Trammell. Their liaison takes on the intense characteristics of a cat-and-mouse game, each party seemingly testing the boundaries of the other while balancing on the knife's edge of desire and suspicion. Meanwhile, Roxy, Trammell's lover, grows increasingly antagonistic towards Curran. In a shocking turn of events, she attempts to murder Curran by running him over with Trammell's car. However, fate takes a cruel twist as she ends up getting killed in the process, adding another layer of complexity to the already convoluted situation. Despite being placed on leave due to the unfolding circumstances, Curran's tenacity remains undeterred. He persists in his unofficial investigation, determined to uncover the truth about Boz's murder. His perseverance yields significant results as he stumbles upon several clues that strongly implicate Trammell as the murderer. These discoveries propel the case in a new direction, further implicating Trammell in the unfolding mystery. As Curran digs deeper into the labyrinthine case, he begins to unearth unsettling facts about Beth Garner that make him question her innocence. He discovers that Trammell and Garner share a complex past, having been involved in a romantic affair during their college years. Both women level accusations of obsession at each other, painting a twisted picture of their relationship. This adds another layer of complexity to the investigation, throwing Garner into the spotlight of suspicion. Further deepening his suspicion of Garner, Curran learns about a chilling incident that took place during the women's time at college. A psychology professor was brutally murdered with an ice pick while both Trammell and Garner were attending the institution, both majoring in psychology. This mirrors the modus operandi used in Johnny Boz's murder, adding another eerie parallel to the case. In an unfortunate series of events, Curran's partner is lured to a building and subsequently murdered. The method of killing is disturbingly identical to the one described in Trammell's new book, which is still unpublished. Having been left waiting in the car during the incident, Curran senses the danger unfolding and rushes to intervene. However, he arrives too late to prevent the tragedy, finding only his partner's lifeless body. Upon his arrival, Curran encounters Garner at the murder scene. Fueled by the evidence pointing towards her and the circumstances of the crime, he comes to the grim conclusion that she must be the one who murdered his partner, believing that she is reaching for a weapon to shoot him. Reacting out of fear and self-defense, he shoots her first, only to find that she was reaching for a set of keys. In her final moments, Garner makes a heart-wrenching confession to Curran, whispering that she loves him as she breathes her last. This shocking revelation leaves Curran grappling with the reality of his actions, the love confession casting an even darker shadow over the already grim situation. The tragic events surrounding Beth Garner's death lead to a police search of her apartment. What the police uncover during their investigation sends shockwaves through the precinct. They find damning evidence that implicates Garner in the gruesome murders of Boz and Curran's partner Gus. Among the items discovered are a .38 revolver, copies of Trammell's novels, photographs of the victims and of Trammell herself, and ominously, an ice pick, the weapon consistent with the murder method in both killings. As the dark shadow of suspicion lifts from Catherine Trammell, she and Nick Curran find themselves drawn to each other once again. This culminates in a passionate and intense lovemaking session, adding another layer of complexity to their already tumultuous relationship. In the aftermath of their encounter, while Curran's back is briefly turned away from her, Catherine appears to reach under the bed, her movements eerily reminiscent of the fatal scenes described in her books. However, she changes her mind at the last moment. The camera pans slowly downwards, revealing the cold, menacing sight of an ice pick lying on the floor under the bed. The sight of the weapon, eerily echoing the murder weapon described in Trammell's books and found at the crime scenes, leaves a chilling note hanging in the air, adding a sense of unease to the final scene.